Recession. Can we predict it? Are there any indicators that could tell us that a recession is on the way so that we can be prepared? Now that is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. Hello and welcome to Beehive Alts channel. I'm Natalia Shiny and today we're going to talk about the top indicators of recession. Number 1. Unemployment. Now unemployment rises like the rocket but falls like a feather. So when a recession happens, the first thing that a company does is try to lay off a few employees. Now that is how they're going to be cutting back on the cost. So unemployment is the number one indicator of recession. Now you might have heard in the news that Google or Microsoft or Infosys, all these companies are laying off thousands of people. Now that is because we were in the middle of a recession. And when companies lay off all these types of employees, the first thing the employee does is they try to go look for other jobs. But all the other companies are laying off all of their employees to cut back on their costs. So these people remain unemployed for a very long time. And this in turn leads to our point number 2, which is GDP. That is a decrease in the GDP. Because all of these people who are unemployed are now going to be cutting back on their expenditure. They're going to be spending less money because they're not making any money. So the gross domestic product, the GDP, basically means the number of goods or services produced in an economy in a particular period of time. And when there is a decrease in the GDP, that means literally the industries or the companies, they're producing less goods and service. So when they're producing less goods and services, they're not going to need much employees. Hence, they start laying off people and unemployment happens. So these 2 points are interlinked. Number 3, decline in real income. Now what is real income? Real income refers to an individual or an household's income adjusted towards inflation. For example, let's say I make 50,000 rupees. Now with 50,000 rupees, I can buy any goods or services I want in the current rate. Now let's say an inflation happens, and in India the current inflation rate is between 5% to 6%. Now because of inflation, the price of the goods or the services are going to go up. But I'm only making 50,000 rupees and that's not changing. Which means I don't have enough money to buy the goods or services that I used to buy when there was no inflation. Now there is a decline in the real income. So this is a basic example. So when there is a decline in the real income, since we are not making much money but inflation keeps happening, what we tend to do is we cut back on our expenses. So we don't go on a spending spree. We start cutting back on expenses, which in turn will affect any sort of business or retail or wholesale sellers. So when there is a decline in the real income and you see that people are trying to cut corners, then that might be an indicator that there is a recession on the way. Number 4, business investment. Now businesses usually use their funds to expand and grow their business. But when you see that a business is trying to cut corners, trying to lay off people, which means they are worried that a recession is on the way. So when you see that a business is trying to slow down the production of goods and services, now that might be an indicator that a recession is on the way. Number 5, decrease in retail and wholesale sales. Now basically when people start losing their job, they don't have an income, they are unemployed, and they start cutting corners. Now they don't go and purchase the goods and services they used to purchase before. So that will definitely be a big hit on all the retail and wholesale sellers. So in turn, what does that business do? They try to cut corners. They again try to lay off a lot of people, and that in turn affects the economy of India. So this again is another indicator that we are in the middle of a recession. Last but not the least, number 6, stock market performance. Now the very first indicator that any investor will look for is stock market to crash when there is a recession. But just make sure you know this, when the stock market crashes, it does not mean that it's going to stay down. It's eventually going to go up. But as an investor, when the stock market crashes, what we tend to do is we tend to go and purchase a lot of stocks because we can get them at a reasonable price. But when you are investing, when the stock market has crashed, make sure you do your research before you buy a lot of stocks in that period of time. The most recent example that I could give you is COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during COVID-19 pandemic, the whole global market crashed, but so did India. And in India, especially BSE and NSE, they both fell by 38%. In conclusion, several factors can lead to a recession. Now, just because you see one of these indicators does not mean that we are going towards a recession. But if you see one or two or more indicators, then we might be headed to a recession, so be prepared. For more information on investments and alternative investments, do subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.